Hey folks, how's it going? The core regret dropped last night and with it the character rebalance details. These are from the wiki, so let's go pick that big O card and start going down the list. Anthuria loses the 10% boost to dodge rate on charge attack in favor of a Dance of Delirium activation, which now lasts for 3 turns while also gaining a 1 hit at herself. The cooldown of the skill itself goes up to 6 turns, but it's still a 50% uptime and is going to be pretty much permanent thanks to her new CA. Alluring Step is now a simple stance switch, so her quick and silent taps are going to be permanently active. Captivation is about to get a complete rework, turning into an instant CA for Anthuria while also granting all allies Uplift, a shield and Hype. Her passives are now changed to grant her extra effects when dodging, and these are based on her stance. Quick Tap will grant all allies a stackable attack up while extending the duration of Hype, and Silent Tap will heal all allies and grant them a stackable defense up. This is actually a fantastic rework, even if Captivation is probably going to keep its 8 turns cooldown. The only weird thing is that she will no longer keep buffing Hype, but simply extending its duration. Hype itself is kind of a weird buff. Based on RNG it's kind of unreliable, but it's still a unique attack up, so it's not to be easily dismissed. Looks like Anthuria is going to need someone who can keep buffing Hype in order to increase its stacks, and Aoido's 5-star came up right on time. Also, she's about to get a harp weapon specialty in addition to her melee one. Percival sadly didn't get an automatic skill activation, gaining crests instead while staying a selfish attacker. His charge attack gets a 20% boost to charge bar just like his new light version, the Ryzen grants him a Hellfire crest while getting increased healing, and there comes the first surprise. His Petrify now also gets a delay on it. This would be perfect against the DDoS boss Proud. His third skill gets a big rework as expected, losing the fire attack up but granting Percival strength, echo and additional effects based on the amount of crests he has, with more double attack, triple attack and a nice skin buff too. Kingly Aura got a slight change to grant fire attack to Percival based on the amount of crests, and Ideal Vessels is a bit weird to understand here. Adjusted so the attack up is easier to obtain doesn't make much sense when all you needed was a full front line, so maybe the requirement goes down to 3 or 2 allies being still alive. Well, it's not that big of a deal. Too bad Percival doesn't get any team-wide crest buffs or a backline passive. Paya also only has Tina and Zalamelina working with crests, the first granting all allies increased CA specs, the second more damage reduction. The rebalance is sure nice, but I don't think he's about to make a big comeback. Moving on, Summer Narmea. By the looks of it, she's going to keep her skill levels going up each cast, but she's about to become a whole lot more slippery. Her charge attack will now grant her a 2-hit mirror image as well as a one-time other self, allowing her to ignore more damage and debuffs. No changes on her first skill, so you'll still need to wait a while before getting 80% echoes, but her second skill will get better double and triple attack rates in addition to her Dispel, while her third will get a 1-turn cap to its cooldown, better crit, and is about to be turned into a nighttime assassin like her Christmas version. She doesn't have counters or nukes to boost with it, but she's going to come with a 40% echo on the first turn cast and 80% echo when you'll be able to cast it again on turn 6. Her passive buff to dodge rate is also about to get a lot faster, now requiring only 5 skill casts, and the best part about it is going to be the addition of a delay effect on dodge. Sure, she doesn't come with hostility up and the delay will only really be guaranteed on other self, but I do believe she'll work nicely with Sturm. One brings buffs and fields charge attack demons, the other pretty much nullifies them. Aglovale is up next and is getting pretty much what Percival got. Watercrest to himself upon casting the Ryzen, an awesome boost to his Cold Cage now guaranteeing a 2-turn duration, and a similar change to his self buff now granting him strength, echo and extra buffs based on the amount of deluge crests he has. This one though goes on the defensive route with defense up, revitalize, veil, fire damage cut and a dispel cancel. Only for himself though. I guess this is where I'll start advocating for a character who is able to spread buffs around. It's a mechanic we still don't have in the game and it would be fun with assassins as selfish buffers. Closing up on Aglovale, Absolute Zero now takes effect even when he's in the backline, so every chain is going to grant all allies a boost to water attack up. Even with no crest synergy, Aglovale is about to become a permanent 5th slot character because of this alone. I wonder why Percival didn't get something similar. Now, Trio. Her charge attack didn't get touched and neither did Ground Zero, which will still set her HP down to 1%. Her first skill gets an increase in cooldown going from 4 to 6 turns and it looks like Wrath and Agitation will be no more. Instead, Vorpal Rage will grant Trio a 3 turns jammed in any form as well as a 1-turn drain for 3333 HP in Axe form and a 30% damage amplification for 1 hit in Sword form. Berserk Forge will also be set on a 6 turns cooldown and will grant her a 3x counter on dodge lasting 3 turns and going up to a counters on dodge or damage, guaranteed triple attack and hostility up at 5 star when in axe form, while her sword form will allow her to instantly perform an attack, and if she's uncapped to 5 star, this will be a guaranteed triple attack and will have a 30% echo attached to it. Her last change is for her supernatural passive, granting her a 3 hits lethal attack dodge at the start of the battle, as well as a 300k supplemental damage on the third hit of her attacks at 5 star. For this, she's going to give up on her double and triple attack, extra quilt rate and 70% echo from her wrath and agitation, which really doesn't sit well with me. Her rebalance honestly feels incomplete, the 3 turns duration for Gemmed still feels too short, the drain on a single turn won't be enough to allow her to get back in Magneto setups, and her hostility up, which can help for countering, is going to be locked behind her 5 star uncap. The changes to Supernatural also looks more like a nerf than a buff, so again, this feels like a half rebalance, and I'm expecting to see her face pop up again in the next rebalance patch announcement, alongside Twayan, Quotra and Uno. Next up is Valentine Medusa, and the first line I see here is about the removal of her Star Stiff debuff from her charge attack. This will instead activate Magical Medusiana, which sees a small reduction in damage and damage cap, but gains multiple sources of automatic activation. The new Magical Medusiana will inflict poison while raising Medusa's Sweet Snake stack by 1 on each cast. When this stack reaches 7, Magical Medusiana will activate 3 times. Her first passive will be changed to grant her increased charge attack specs based on Sweet Snake level, which is alright, and her Supreme Serpent Eye will no longer grant her immunity to stone, but instead will let her automatically cast Magical Medusiana when a boss performs a special attack. Her first and third skills saw no change, so Valentine Medusa is going to become a great pair with Rising Force and Mosh Pit, speeding up the boss's special attacks to maximize the Amplifier Prism effect and spam plenty of nukes in the meantime. Now, Wind. The Wind gets a nice increase in HP for his AoE shield, now going up to 1500. Fracture gets its damage increased despite being already a fairly decent nuke, as well as the addiction of an Earth attack down. Rebellion now consumes 30% of Gawain HP and turns into an AoE nuke, while also granting him a gen buff, but going up to a 6 turns cooldown. I didn't expect to see changes or improvements on his phalanx, but he's about to get a 100% debuff resistance up. Lastly, Use It or Lose It will grant him a boost to attack and defense based on how low its HP is. Well, he didn't get an automatic skill cast or stackable attack and defense down, nor he did get an AoE substitute or instant charge bar boost. No way to reset his cooldowns or any other cool mechanics. He got a bit better, but he still looks very basic. His new spear weapon specialty might open a few doors for him in Ultima teams at least. As for Carmelina, her Warhoop is simply getting a better single-sided defense down, hopefully going up to 25% and not a 15-1, as well as a stronger double and triple attack down. Her second skill stays the same, simply bringing gravity, and her third skill is now about to become a second AoE nuke that also inflicts stackable debuff resistance down. Passive-wise, Universal Star is about to grant her increased attack specs when Mirror Image is up, and she's going to get a new support skill that will boost her charge attack specs based on the number of debuffs an enemy has. I've seen this passive on another character already, but that character is Shalem. Hers goes up to 10 debuffs with a 9% increase in charge attack damage and 3% increase in charge attack damage cap each stack. She's a limited character though, so I really don't want to expect Carmelina to be able to go up to 90% boost to charge attack damage and 30% boost to charge attack damage cap. But I have to admit I'd love to see it. This is also going to prime her for another great 5-star uncap, hopefully coming sometimes in the future, linked to another Jewel Resort event. Light opens up with Delafil, who is going to be June's 5-star character, so everything in here is probably just in preparation for it. Jewel Mirror loses the dodge and counter, instead gaining a 4k shield. The light echo stays the same and will still last until she takes damage. Her second skill gets a nice damage boost, a better light defense down and a dark attack down as well, making it an elemental miserable mist. Meanwhile, Regeneration will grant all allies a heal and a 3 turns Revitalize down from 5, but have its cooldown shortened to 7 turns down from 10. Her last change only affects her Glimmering Barrier passive, but changes it from a boost to defense to a boost to debuff resistance when her shield is up. This can be barely defined a rebalance, she's getting a couple of better numbers, but that's about it. Before judging whether she'll be any good, we're going to have to wait for her 5-star uncap, which at this point I'm going to guess will turn her into a light version of Orchid or Folia, turning her shield into a unique buff and granting her extra effects when the shield is up. Next up is Cyril, and to my surprise he didn't get any crests, which were stolen by Light Percival instead. His first skill will be changed into a new passive, automatically activating every 3 turns to inflict light damage and grant him a stackable skill damage cap up. In its place, he's about to get a single target nuke with a standard attack and dark attack down on a 6 turns cooldown. His Veil will be put on par with Dark Vira's, granting him a 3 turns guaranteed triple attack on an 8 turns cooldown, and lastly, his Prince of Airsteel passive will change into his Krishna's version 1, granting all allies a boost to multi-attack rate when Cyril has no debuffs on him. Overall, not too bad of a deal for him. And we're almost done here, just the dark characters left, and the first one is Vira. Affection Abyss, her merge form charge attack will now cut her skill cooldowns by 1 turn, which is pretty amazing. The merge lasts 10 turns and has a 13 turns cooldown. 3 charge attacks are going to bring the downtime to 0, and they're very likely to happen since she has uplift when merged. Layer Rise saw its much needed rework, turning the 15% attack and defense down into stackable attack and defense down. Now she'll also buff herself with a stackable attack and defense up, and the cooldown for this skill is going down to a short 4 turns. Affection Oath is also getting more debuffs, bringing light attack and light defense down, as well as dark attack and dark defense down. Its healing went up to 3000 HP and the cooldown got shortened to a 6 turns one. It looks like Vira might be the only debuffer you need to cap attack and defense down now. Blade of Light is also seeing a boost to attack, defense and double attack. Quite a nice buff for Vira, even if her light tackle will continue to deal very little damage. Also, Catalina is still here, granting her lower cooldowns, which is pretty cool. Last one in the list, and the one I've got the highest hope for, is Dark Angel Olivia. Sterling C will get more damage, damage cap and a better double attack down, which is alright. Peccatum Mortale will be turned into an AoE, while also getting more damage and damage cap, and a cooldown reduction down to 6 turns. Light bosses will never perform another charge attack again. Nevermore is also seeing a change, now granting her a shield, veil and a Fallen Angel wing buff that will only end upon taking damage 3 times. Vikala is already laughing in the background. The Fallen Angel wing buff will grant her a boost to triple attack, crit, debuff success, damage cap and echoes, so Dark Lucio confirmed. Lucio's wing buff is going to take a bit to stack up to 6, while his third skill only lasts 2 turns out of 7. Even if Nevermore is going up to 8 turns, the chances of Olivia being hit 3 times remain fairly slim, and even if the numbers on her buffs aren't as high as Lucio, and considering they're pretty much permanent, they shouldn't be, Olivia might actually turn into a real nice beast to bring around. Her Fallen Angel passive didn't get the Disciple treatment like many other people wanted, but it seems to have lost the amplified damage against light foes, so she'll still be able to make use of it against off-elements fight like Grand Order High Level or Beelzebub. As an added bonus, a bunch of characters are going to get extra weapon specialties. Anne gets Staff, both Anthurias get Harp, Granvira and Gawain get Spear, both Societte get Harp, Magisa gains a real nice melee specialty, Melisabel gets Axe, and all dual versions lose the Saber weapon specialty, trading it for a Harp one. This kind of feels like an end of an era, and I would have much preferred she would drop the Katana one instead. Alright, that's it for the characters. Overall, it looks like a real nice rebalance for most of them. I'm a bit sad I've missed on a lot of predictions, but I can't wait for the 9th when these changes will come into effect. As for the bingo card, Anthuria's dances are getting turned into stances, so this is going to get crossed. Olivia did get her Darkwing buff and similar buffs to Lucio, so I'll be taking this one too. As well as Medusa being able to CA freely without blocking her amplifier prism. Vira didn't get a stacking mechanic and Naru didn't lose her skill levels though, so that's 2 flukes. Carmelina didn't go full stackable with her debuffs, Aglovale actually got a better chain burst effect, but at least Narmea's assassin got turned into an anytime one. No crest for Cyril, and I'm not sure if I can consider Medusa rebalance to allow her to become top tier, so I will hold on this one too. Sadly, Trio's rebalance was quite disappointing and Gawain didn't get an auto activation. The free square is here to save this line at least, because Vira's Echo didn't get touched and Percival didn't get an auto cast. Cyril's skill damage cap going on AoE was a bit of a stretch, I wasn't expecting cross this off anyway. No Ardern Dance for Anthuria, no Disciple passive for Olivia, but I'm actually happy about this one. Trio still doesn't know what she wants to be, so I don't get to cross this off either. It's crazy. Delafil will be warping benches until her 5-star at least. On the last line, Vira got her stackable debuff and Gawain got his health sacrifice, so not a single bingo for me this time either. Damn. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick overview, let me know which changes you've liked the most down in the comments and I'll see you guys soon enough. Ciao!